really.
Okay. Funny story. We just were talking for like 15 minutes. And then my camera girl, she's a blonde. She's my #1 stalker. And she just completely screwed up. And all of a sudden we realized we weren't even rolling. So here we go again. Starting all over again. This is second time around for us. First time for you. All right, my name's Drew. I'm a firearms instructor. I'm NRA certified. I'm certified with the Department of Justice. I'm a combat vet, and I'm a resident of Onslow County. And just like you guys, we see the signs out there that political season is here. And a lot of times we don't know what these candidates look like, let alone what they stand for, except for JJ Zamora. JJ's the only one who's got his picture on his sign. First of all, let me just make it clear, this is not an endorsement of JJ or any candidate. I don't know who I'm going to support yet. And that's part of the reason we're doing this interview. And the interview with these candidates is to see where they stand on the issue. So we'll just start off with JJ. Go ahead and tell us who you are.
Let's tell you really quick. So JJ Zamora, running for sheriff here in Onslow County. I grew up here in Onslow and Swansboro, more specifically. We were a military move.
Okay.
So we grew up here in Swansboro, and we have attended my wife and I both attended Swansboro area high schools, middle schools and elementary schools. So it's really important for us that we understand the community that we serve, because we grew up here and we're very entwined in what's happening. And right now I'm a high school photographer is how most people know me. So we come in and do sports pictures, and our program raises money for our high schools here in the area. I think he's got to calm down. Yeah, we can. All right. So yeah, back to our funny story that I was telling you guys. Okay. So yeah, I joined the Army in 2001. 17. It was really 2000, and we were offered to get out of the military after September 11th. But instead, I volunteered to go to Afghanistan, and my platoon sergeant at the time, like I was explaining, invited me to the talk for all the missions, mission briefings, stuff like that. And then whenever we got out on site, we were moving prisoners by aircraft all over Afghanistan and into Pakistan, to turn over either to military police agencies or other government agencies. He's like, look, you're in charge. And I'm a kid. I'm an E2, I know nothing. And I felt really great about that he trusted me enough to be in charge of these missions. Because you're out there and you're telling people what to do, and they're coming to you for answers, and you had to know what was going on. But last year we're having dinner as friends, and we're back together and we're talking about these old times, and he just starts laughing. He almost chokes on his sweet tea at Texas Roadhouse, and he goes, bro, I never gave that stuff to you because I trusted you. I just figured if there was a sniper, they would see you giving out orders and they would snipe you. Worst case scenario, we lost an E2. So that was a shot to the heart right there. But it was a great story because he did come back. He's like, no, I did trust you, but in all honesty, you weren't mission critical. So
that's funny. We do the same thing with our engineers. Put them in the front of the patrol, right? Just in case. That's funny, man. Oh boy. Well, tell us why you're running for sheriff.
Yeah. So look, what it boils down to is I used to be a state trooper, a military policeman. I have that background in law enforcement. But I'll be very honest with y'all. It was not my intention to run for sheriff. I heard in March, that Hans wasn't going to run. I kind of jokingly said something to a friend, but then I kind of pushed it off to the side. I'm focused on myself and my family. But the Maysville police chief who I worked with came in for pictures, and he says, hey, I'm running in Jones County. I'd love it if you ran in Onslow. And I said, no, man, I'm happy. I make good money. I'm home all the time. We want vacation. We just take vacation. I have a strong marriage. I get to raise my daughter. Why would I go back into law enforcement? He's like, because some men aren't meant to be on the sidelines of life. And that hurt, it really struck me. And then as I do my walks every day with my dog, it just kept nagging at me. And we just prayed about it. My wife and I, and our daughter, because she is 11, she's very vital what goes on. We had an all-out discussion of what should we do. So I wish I could say I dropped down to my knees and prayed to God and said, hey, this is what happened. No, instead I'm like in our movie room, I'm cuddled up with my dog, we're watching TV, and I said, am I needed? Am I still needed in this profession? Should I actually go back into it? And the next day, My daughter's doing jujitsu, and we had a kid just, he's special needs. He's sitting on the bench, and he falls over and collapses, has a seizure. He's knocked unconscious. He goes from white to blue to purple, and none of the parents knew what to do. But I remembered all my training, jumped in, we got him back breathing, we got his tongue out. After 2 minutes, after 3 minutes, he was back conscious and breathing and resuscitated. And I went back to my wife, I was like, I think I'm needed. Every door after that has opened up. And it just really came down to, I'm not going to turn my back on what I think God's plans are for me. So whenever he opened up those doors for the campaign stuff, for filing, my wife was looking for a job because childcare is important to us. And she's been turned down 160 times. And she's a GS-12 at Cherry Point. And then boom, as soon as I file, she gets a job offer. It's 100% from home. It's the same pay with no supervision, no supervisory skills. So now she's going to be at home taking care of our daughter. Just every door has opened up past that. So for us, we're very faith-based people. I'm not going to ever push my faith on anybody else, but I want them to be able to have the accessibility to practice their own faith and their beliefs. And for me, there's just no way I'm going to look at that many signs and say, no, I'm going to turn my back to what you have laid out. So,
sure.
The original election was supposed to be in March. I prayed about, is there enough time for us to get a campaign together? We're talking end of November and end of March, there's no way. And then boom, the election gets pushed back to May. And I'm like, well,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm like, so that's pretty interesting. So God will move mountains for you if you look at that way, and that's the way I kind of feel like it's going. We were given more time to campaign. We're given more time to actually meet people.
Sure.
And so I just have to take all of that in stride. So
I look at life that way too. Yeah, there's a lot of things that just sort of happen, and it has to be God looking out for you. That's happened to us in our lives.
And you guys have a farm, so you know what it's like. I mean, farm life is very brutal. I tell people this all the time because we raise chickens, turkeys, rabbits, pigs, cows, all that stuff. You could have a super healthy animal, you look at it, looks like it's fine, you turn your back to it, it's dead.
Yeah.
And you have to come to terms with those things, but you also have to understand how to operate things on a shoestring budget. You have to learn how to repurpose things. You learn from your first mistake that, the first time you guys probably had a cow, you probably learned 15 things. So the next time your second cow came around, boom, this is what we do now.
Exactly.
And that's what life is. If we can't take that mindset of, well, this is what I did in 1999, that's going to still be applicable today because it's changed 30, 40 times since then. And so as a small business owner and farmer, I understand that's what we need to happen at the sheriff's office as well. We have to reevaluate. There's new training, I don't know whenever you joined, but in the military they used to teach cup and saucer, or even being bladed whenever you're shooting your pistol, and now we found, hey, that's not a great idea. You're wearing armor, face the target, extend out, shoot. So that training and ideas is what we need to look at. It has to be refreshing, it has to be new, and you have to be able to go back to it. So.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Absolutely. Do you need to pause that to check on her, or do you think you're good?
I'm okay.
Okay, you're good.
She's
okay.
quiet.
Okay, because sorry.
Yeah, dude, you're fine.
We got 4 kids. I'm a really good breeder. And we got,
She's 2.
Yeah, so they're, 2 years old is
hey, good for you guys, because let me tell you, we had one, and now.
Dude, our 11-year-old daughter, she's a handful.
Yeah.
Okay, she's a handful. You need to know that. So, I guess what I really want to know is what kind of Republican are you? What are your political views? This county went 62% for Donald Trump. Are you a supporter of Donald Trump? What kind of Republican are you? Let's start with that, and then we'll get into just a couple other things.
Yeah, so all right, so let's just tackle it straight on. Let's talk about President Trump because, man, what a great thing that he provided to us. Whether you agree with his politics, his policies, or anything, look at what he did. He came in from the outside and said, I'm bringing a fresh set of eyes to this, but I'm bringing my business expertise to this. If you can help me, terrific, but the moment you're not needed and you're starting to just get fat on what I'm providing, you need to cut them out and move on to the next person.
Right.
And so it's not that he wasn't loyal to people, it was, look at this, you have to be able to provide and give back to us. You have to be able to contribute and not be a problem. I love the fact that he bypassed the media because if we look at the media, I've already done an interview for WITN, the first week that I announced I was running.
Right.
Y'all haven't seen it because it doesn't fit into their news day and when they can release that information yet. And they're like, we're just going to wait till closer to May.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
So
TV interview?
Yep.
Okay.
So they've got stuff that they sit on. But so we need a public affairs officer. If you take what we took from President Trump, we need a public affairs officer, because if there's something happening at one of our schools, we need to be able to jump into Facebook Live, Twitter, social media, and say, look, there's incident at Swansboro High School. The area's been locked down. Please stay out of the area. We're sending deputies there. Okay, look, the situation's under control. And hold a press conference. That's on social media.
Sure.
That
They do have
bypasses.
a Facebook page. I know that.
They have a Facebook page
Right.
with 30,000 followers, and we don't engage them.
Right.
Which is just insane, especially in 2022, whenever you look at how people are consuming information on Facebook and not off news websites. So
Yeah.
So that I'm a proud supporter of President Trump, because I love what he did as far as bypassing the system and saying that it has to be done because it has to be done. It's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So I really enjoy those things. I already talked about, like, I have a strong faith in God, and that's really important to me.
Yeah.
If somebody else doesn't have those beliefs, it's okay.
Right.
But I'm pro, like, having your First Amendment protected, because you can come up to us at a public forum and yell and scream and be upset and use curse words, and it's okay if I get offended. It's the way that you're expressing yourself. Right. But I shouldn't use my political power to silence you in that matter.
Sure.
Same whenever it comes down to our Second Amendment. That's absolutely vital and key to our nation's success. And anybody that has a question about it, look at what Ukraine's doing right now.
Right, yeah.
And man, they're just giving us a life lesson and refresher course on what patriotism is and how important it is to be able to protect not only your neighbor, but also your country as a whole.
Yeah, what a great point. Yeah, we actually are seeing that played out in Ukraine right now. The average person, the common man, being able to pick up a rifle to defend their nation. Brings me to my next question. As a concealed carry instructor, I'm of the belief that the sheriff's office really doesn't have any business telling people when they can and cannot buy a handgun, let alone the concealed carry. There's a big movement throughout the country for constitutional carry, and this would eliminate the sheriff from having to do all this additional paperwork. I mean, you think about it, if you want to go down to a local gun shop and buy an AK rifle, you do an instant background check and you're in and out immediately. But if I want to buy a .22 handgun, I have to go to the sheriff's office and ask permission to buy a handgun. Now, I know this is a state law. This wouldn't be something that you could change, but how do you stand on maybe doing away with some of this stuff and going to constitutional carry? What do you think?
So, I don't know if you remember, but North Carolina was actually looking at putting that up to kind of get rid of the sheriff's office of taking in that step.
Right.
Because if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Sure.
But now look at Wake County. So Wake County, before the pandemic started, they were seeing something like, you're going to have to forgive me because it's been a little bit, but let's just say that the numbers were that they were seeing 5,000 concealed handgun applications coming in within like a 2-month period.
Wow,
right?
Holy smokes, yeah.
Now, post-pandemic, they were seeing 5,000 applications coming in every week for people asking.
Wake County, Charlotte?
Wake County's Raleigh.
Raleigh, okay.
So what did they do? They didn't say, well, sorry, you're going to have to wait. No, their sheriff understood that they have a 14-day law that they have to follow.
Right.
He pulled in administrative deputies that were hurt, injured, whatever. He pulled in extra people off of his staff and made it a rotating thing, so it actually runs full time. And so now they are doing over 5,000 applications every week. So the week that you apply, very much so, the same week that you're going to get approved to go purchase your weapon. Yeah. And that's exactly what we need. If we can't change it, here in Onslow County right away,
right,
as far as, constitutional carry and stuff like that, then we need to say, let's evaluate the process. I want the military spouse or, the single mom or anybody who wants to, hey, I need that additional security to be able to go in and not be delayed past that 14-day period, because you're going in there for something. We should be able to give you back something and do it fairly quickly. So
okay, that's okay. What was it, 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to meet Chris Thomas, and I'll just say first, we didn't talk politics, but first impressions, he is a consummate professional. You meet the man, you look him in the eye, and you can tell this guy, he's a pro. He's been doing it for a long time. I talked to him on the phone this morning. I plan on doing an interview with him sometime this month. Where do you stand in contrast to Colonel Thomas in your campaign and what you want to do versus what you think he represents as maybe an establishment kind of figure. What do you think?
Yeah, so I've met Chris a couple times, and we're going to hear about his 35 years of experience, and he's going to let you know I've been doing this for 35 years. Here's my point of view on that. I've been cleaning my room for 35 years. Does not mean that my room is clean. It's a mess. So we have experience, but it's not always good experience. And whenever I look at our leadership styles, we are very, very much on opposite ends of the spectrum. Meeting with current employees, meeting with a lot of past employees who have left the sheriff's office as little as 3 and 4 weeks ago, up until the past 2 years of actually leaving. It comes down to leadership. So think about leadership this way as traditional leaders. Think of it as a rat race, right? We put that piece of cheese up there and we say, whichever one of these rats can get to the top and get that cheese is going to get the promotion. You're going to go into the next maze. And you'll step and climb over whoever you can to get to that piece of cheese. And that's kind of what we're seeing. That's why we see toxic leadership. That's why we see leaders who are not taking care of their employees, is because all they're trying to do is get to that next rung, get the next stripe, get the next promotion. Whereas I bring a servant leadership style. And that comes back to my faith. I'm just a servant. I'm going to be a public servant. Everybody has a right to come into my office and talk to me. And we have to keep that line of communication open. As a servant leader, though, you've had these in the Marine Corps. I know you have. You have the ones who work Monday through Friday. They take care of themselves. They're in and out. They do just what's needed of them.
Yeah.
They don't come by your office. They don't check on the troops. They're not there doing weapons cleaning. But then you remember those really great servant leaders that you have that walk by and say, hey, is there something I can do for you? So my leadership is going to put more emphasis on actually meeting with our employees, talking to them, finding out what they need from us to be successful in their job. If you are on our command staff, you're going to be required to work night shifts. And I don't mean just sitting in your office going, okay, I was here tonight.
Yeah.
Actually working. So if you're over the jail, you're going to be working the jail. So when they need something, like how half of our cameras don't work right now, how we're having deputies come in off the road to work the jail staff because we're seriously understaffed and we can't keep anybody there.
Yeah, I've heard that being a problem, yeah.
So that all comes down to leadership. I run a small business. My current assistant is grossly underpaid for her talents. She stays because she's happy. Whenever you can offer $40 an hour or $20 an hour to somebody and they still leave after a few weeks or even a month, that comes down to your leadership and management style.
Sure.
So we're very, very different in the fact that I want to make sure that people understand that I serve them. Whenever I talked to Jacob, our big difference was, Jacob said, I commanded 300 men in the military. And I would see myself as being in charge of 300 employees at the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
I'm very different because I believe I'm in charge of the care of 300 employees.
Right.
So they can't have permanent shifts right now. Well, if you're a stay-at-home parent like I was for a number of years, you understand that maybe night shift works better for you and your family, or maybe day shift. We need to accommodate those employees.
Right. And
you can't break it down and say, well, what works great for the road staff works great for the jail. You have to say what works for the jail and take it by that department. And don't apply those rules to the road deputies or to the court staff. So
okay,
that's very much how we're different. I am a servant leader. To my core, that is what I believe. If you have more power, that just means that you have more opportunities to do something for the people that work beneath you. It is not, look, I have 6 friends. I don't need more friends. I know lots of people, but I have 6 really good friends that I could call them up, say, drive me to the airport at 2:30 in the morning, and they would do it. Whenever I walk into a room, it's not, I want to be known as the sheriff, and people want to come gravitate to me because I'm the sheriff and I can do something for them. Friends ask for favors all the time. And I'm not a NASCAR racer. I don't need endorsements from people. I'm not looking for that. I want you to know as a Republican or you to know as a Democrat that you have these same opportunities given to you because you live here in our county. So we're very different. Whenever I walk into a room, like you'll see this evening, there are people that I just won't talk to because they're looking for a favor. They want to be able to say, oh, that's my buddy. Their kid gets in trouble. I've seen it working as a state trooper.
Sure.
Oh, well, that's the county commissioner's son. Who cares?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm not looking for anybody's approval whenever I am the sheriff to go, oh, hey, I owe you that favor because you donated to my campaign. I owe you that favor because we're friends. And so it's a very different leadership style.
Yeah.
So we are starch very, very different people whenever it comes to that. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, accountable ultimately to the people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the most important thing. I mean, when I went in there, I mean, that's one thing Hans Zimmer said. Who is the current sheriff, who I think has done a good job.
Yeah.
You know, is that this is the people's office. This is, you're welcome in here. This is the people's office. This is, welcome to anybody.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I think that my view of the sheriff, and I try to emphasize this in class, is that we talk about this document, the U.S. Constitution. It's thin. It's easy for the common man to read and understand. I carry it in my pocket. And it's full of checks and balances, right? You got checks and balances at the federal level.
Yep.
Come down to the state, you've got a miniature republic and checks and balances. Finally, at the local level, we've got these checks and balances with judges, with district attorney, and the sheriff. And to me, the final check and balance on all that is the Second Amendment. But at a local level, it's the sheriff.
Yeah.
You have the authority, in my view, and I tend to be more of a libertarian Republican, where I look at stuff as, is more freedom or less freedom.
Yeah.
And, you may or may not agree with some of my viewpoints
Right.
on that, whether it's the war on drugs or masks or vaccines, which I do want to get your viewpoint on. But as a constitutional sheriff, you have the ability to say to a federal law that may be unjust and say, look, we're not going to enforce that in my county. I think that's so important. What's your viewpoint on that?
So yeah, I 100% agree with that, because whenever you look at stuff, whenever I started running for sheriff, I wanted to make sure that we understood everything. I knew the previous sheriff in Jones County and Danny Heath, and we were really great friends, and you talk about these things. So look, as the sheriff, I want to make sure it's very clear, like especially whenever we talk about our gun rights and stuff like that, even though it's kind of stepped off to the side because of Ukraine right now, but it's still up and running in the behind the scenes network. We're never going to allow a federal agency to come in here and say, we're going to take all of your weapons, da 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 da. No, you're protected by the sheriff.
Yes.
Because you have to be. Whenever you're a farmer, and you're drinking your own raw milk and stuff like that, and then you have the FDA come in and spill all of your milk because it didn't run through them. No, it's the sheriff that can tell them, pack sand, you do it again, you're under arrest.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Because you need to understand that whenever you're the sheriff, you're not blindly enforcing the rule of law across the land.
Right.
You are making sure that you use your brain, do critical thinking, and make sure that it actually protects the citizens of your county. That's all I'm here for. I'm never going to do this job for 40 years. I will give you my 40s and until I'm 52, and then I'm done and I'm walking out, because it needs to be left up to the younger generation. So that's all we're trying to do, is set ourselves up for success. So you talk about mandates and vaccines and stuff like that. You want to wear a mask to work? Terrific, but you're not required to. You want a vaccine so you feel safer to come to work? Great, but you don't have to.
Okay.
My wife is vaccinated, I'm not. We both have our own different beliefs, and we live in the same household. But I'm never forcing her to do something, and she's never forcing me to do something. Okay. And that's the way it should be for our employees. Mandates are mandates. They are not the rule of law.
Sure.
And so we have to understand that there's a big difference. And if you want to go to work somewhere, you want to go dine in or shop somewhere, and they're like, we need to see your vaccination card, that is not a law here in the state of North Carolina, and it's not going to be enforced by our sheriff's office.
Yeah,
so
that's great. Okay.
We have to protect our people.
Okay. All right, so I mean, that gives me a quick answer on masks and vaccines.
Yeah.
Just a quick answer on your view on the war on drugs, legalization of marijuana, and then maybe pro-life, pro-choice with abortion. And neither one of these may be an issue for a sheriff, but I'm just curious. All right, what's your viewpoint on the two of those issues?
So let's talk about the war on drugs.
Okay.
It's a war that we lost. Okay. Like, let's just be honest about it. We bought in, our parents and grandparents bought into the Reagan administration of say no to drugs, and then, telling you that marijuana leads to heroin and things like that. We've lost that war. Now we're constantly in this battle of trying to catch up to it and understand that stuff. Giving, crack pipes to citizens is never going to solve the problems for equality. That's just stupid, But we need to make sure that we're looking at what is good for the state of North Carolina. Revenue, okay? Look at Colorado, California. They're doing billions of dollars in revenue by the legalization of marijuana. That money goes into our state funds and funds our schools and things like that. So, okay, so hopefully you're pro school and pro money. Okay, well, how can it help people? Well, in kids, it's been proven to, stop seizures with the Charlotte's Web strain and stuff like that. Look at our area. We have a high percentage of veterans. I'm a veteran, you're a veteran. We suffer from knee pain, back pain. Oh, well, what's the VA give you? Here's some Percocet, here's some hydrocodone. Now, that's how we're getting our numbers up in suicide. Let's get you off of medication and get you onto medical marijuana to where we can actually treat the symptoms. And anybody who discredits that stuff with data is normally funded by big pharma data stuff. So you have to be pro medical marijuana whenever it can help people stop seizures, stop back pain, stop that type of stuff. Look at it from another point of view of we could provide jobs to veterans, because that money has to be, crops have to be taken from the farm to the supply house. Money has to be taken from the supply house warehouse over to some banks that will accept it. But we could make a team of veterans that's actually traveling around and providing security for these farms, that they're helping out with these other operations, because it's not something the sheriff's office could do. So now we're getting people off prescription medication, we're creating jobs, we're creating revenue, and that's the way medical marijuana could help our entire state and our community, especially this veteran community that's so big here in Onslow County and spills out into the other counties. So, you know, abortion and stuff like that, I really think that has to come down to the person. That's not something that I can actively participate in because I don't have those organs. It's, you know, I understand both sides of it, but it's not a choice that I'm ever going to have to make in my life. And I don't think that that decision that does not actively affect me should come down to me. It should be made by the people that need to make it. You know, I don't really, because of my faith, I really don't want to believe that people should have to have abortions. But whenever you look at it, what happens, that child's born, it goes into foster care, it leads a bad life. Or it could lead a successful life as well. But we have to look at these issues case by case, you know.
So on that one, do you see yourself more pro-life or pro-choice?
It's just like right there in the middle, because like, you know, I don't want somebody to have to keep a baby whenever she was raped, you know. But I don't want you to be able to abort your child because you went out to the club and all we're doing is preventing you from keeping a single lifestyle instead of being responsible for your own decisions. So I'm just a man. I can't make that decision for people. So
okay. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, that gives everybody a kind of a good idea. I can't think. Is there anything I'm missing, honey? Is there anything I'm missing?
I think that's the thing that we talked about yesterday of having a sheriff's posse. You asked about, you know, how did we get the stuff going down. On my way here, somebody asked me about the sheriff's posse stuff. Which is super interesting, because the way that I see it working is we create a sheriff's posse, which is just a team of volunteers. You volunteer to show up. Now, Hans Miller has done a very great job of setting up a course, a citizens course here, but it's 10 weeks long. We can get that course down and condensed so people have a background check, we understand who they are, but we can get our senior citizens and other people to do administrative work. So now we can get your concealed carry backgrounds and permits and all that stuff down well under our 14-day limit. Because instead of 2 people working in an office, we could have 20 volunteers working in that office. If we could establish that over the first 18 months, that would set us up on the back end of being able to turn around and start applying that to getting people to help out on our roadways. What I mean by that is Sneads Ferry, Hubert, Bear Creek, you know, Hall's Run, where we can't always have a deputy there. Maybe there's an animal in the roadway, there's a tree limb, you need a store security check, somebody needs to be walked to their car.
Neighbors snitching on you, you know? I've had that issue out here.
But you call the sheriff's posse and you could have a posse member show up and help out with those calls. But now look at the Jacksonville kid who just went missing. Instead of us calling in all these outside agencies, we have a bunch of active duty reserves and reserve officers who want to keep their credentials. You can actually take that officer and put him in charge of up to 10 volunteers, and we could get our entire area, the posse, locking down an area and doing an active search, you know, house by house, grid by grid.
That's what you see traditionally with sheriff's offices in the past, is that they engage the citizenry, you know, with this kind of thing.
But
I like that.
Yeah, so whenever you do a volunteer, but if you have an active list and they have pagers and you go, hey, we need a posse member to respond to this area, boom, they go and they're helping out. That's going to free up an armed deputy to respond to something else that's well above that, you know. So we see that in other states like Arizona. They use that with their retirement community. They're doing all their welfare checks and stuff like that. So that's a really great idea that people want to be involved. This gives them a way to be involved, not just within their community, but actually with the sheriff's office, especially, you know, people of color who are usually a little bit discouraged with their interactions with law enforcement. This is going to give them a great in to see what it's like to actually be there. And then we can extend that over to our friends at the military installation. So you want to get out of the Marine Corps and you want to, be a jailer, you want to work the roads, come join our posse and start doing those things now so we can set you up for success when you get out and you're available to do those things. So
yeah, that's great.
we have to stay on top of physical education, mental education as well. We can actually pay our deputies, like reimburse them.
Yeah.
We can reimburse them for their school though.
Yeah.
So if you went to college and you're like, hey, I want to get my degree in criminal justice, terrific. As soon as you're done though, we're going to reimburse you. You just have to give us 2 years here of loyalty at the sheriff's office. But we have to start doing PT tests and actual, not push-up, sit-up stuff, but actual physical fitness examinations of how do you handle stress, like a combat stress test. Yeah. Because right now, let's face it, they're out of shape. They're not fit. They're not mentally tough whenever it comes to some of those issues because they're eating fast food, they're taking in soda, they're filling their body up with McDonald's, and then they're stressed from finances and not understanding, I'm not getting enough sleep and things like that. So yeah, it comes down to a lot, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we actually have friends who are willing to teach financial assistance to all of our Onslow County staff at the sheriff's office. So teaching them how to invest in things other than the 401k and TSP. And then we're also talking, one of our friends teaches gut health and mental health, how it all ties in. So 2 hours of sleep is no longer a badge of honor. Right. You need to be getting 8 hours of rest, and how do we make that happen? Yeah. So he shows you how to do those things through his coaching, which is really, really great. And then we can educate our inmates by using dog training coming in. So they're actually taking animals from our Onslow County high kill shelter and giving them to the inmates, and they get trained. The inmate learns empathy. They get a degree. And the dog has a 92% chance of being adopted and staying adopted after it's been trained. So it's a lot. The sheriff has a lot more to do than just enforcing laws. He's got to be out there being seen. He's got to be giving back to the community. We need to have like golf tournaments and stuff like that to raise awareness and money for our domestic abuse shelters. Sure. You have to be thinking about these things. As a small business owner in marketing, I understand that. Hence why you see my face with a cowboy hat. Because you need to understand the person that you're voting for is actually a person that you could relate to. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, and I like that about you. So I guess, I don't know what our time is right now. We went pretty long with Jacob. We'll probably close out right here. You still running? Okay. So I'll just say real quick, with the abortion issue, I am staunchly pro-life. I'm a very pro-life guy. And I know I kind of want to stay in my lane here because mostly I'm dealing with people from all different political views that come to take my class. Sometimes I teach. I went to a barbershop during the political season of 2020. I taught a whole class of Democrat Biden supporters. Yeah. And then other times I'm teaching folks that are on the far right. And everybody, has the same rights as Americans. And that's what I believe. But I want to I'm very pro-life. I think God will bless you even more if you take more of a staunch viewpoint on that. And I know that kind of issue may not come up with the sheriff. I told that to Jacob too. I was like, it may not. And it's really not something in the lane of where I'm at as a concealed carry instructor, but I just want to tell everybody that's my viewpoint on it. So, to close out, I'll let you have something to close out on, but just kind of an off question. I didn't ask Jacob this one, but what's your favorite gun?
Oh, man.
What's your favorite handgun?
So
let's go with that first.
I love my 6 hour that I had. I love the Smith & Wesson. I am not a Glock guy.
Okay, not a Glock guy. Not a Glock guy.
Look.
Okay, Sheriff's Office right now is using a Glock 19X, I think.
Yeah, so here's the thing though. But something I shopped around at our local gun stores because I think this is really important. We should always keep our money local. Sure. We should not be giving it out to other places. I want to make sure that whenever we're looking at stuff for our sheriff's office, that we start looking at the condensed, PPWs and stuff like that. Because if you watch a lot of police videos like I do, you see somebody who's untrained with the M4 and they're like, it's heavy, and they set it down and go for their pistol. So, especially maneuverability inside your car, being able to grab that smaller PPW, you can still lay down some hate down range, and that's needed. You got the 5.56, but if you go with the Glock availability, you can still go 9mm. Yeah. And boom, so you've got at least an extra round, a magazine that you can pump in there. Yeah. and lay down that hate that's needed to protect our citizens. So I have just.
But you're a SIG guy. So what do you carry? What's your carry?
So I have like a 357, the SIG 226.
226
is what we carried on the highway patrol.
Yeah.
I was able to buy that gun back for $1.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
That's a really great. That's a gift that I gave to my grandfather so he could hold it up and have that stuff. So I love a SIG, man. It's just, and the Smith & Wesson was really nice as well. I'm not a Glock.
Okay, he's not a Glock.
I can tell you in the military, a Beretta, I'm well past a Beretta.
Yeah, we have a Beretta here. It fits my big hands. You know, a lot of Marines hate the Beretta because they're like from the Army, from Beirut, man. They're pretty old. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good. You know, Jacob, I'll have to ask Jacob what his favorite gun is. I forgot to ask him. He's a big-time shooter. And then I'll ask Chris Thomas as well because I saw he was carrying a Glock. But yeah, do you have anything you want to close with? And I mean, I will say this: that if I put this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you have questions for JJ, put it in the comment box below, and then I'll make sure that he pays attention and answers any questions maybe that are concerning to you guys. And maybe we'll follow up at some point. But he's got a forum tonight at the, I can't even remember where it's at. Maybe we'll put it in the description box below. You know where it's at?
It's gonna be at like the Board of Realtors Suite 100
like
at
downtown
6:30.
Jacksonville, in the hood
so,
somewhere, right? Yeah. So, you know, all the candidates will be there. We plan on going, and if you guys can make it, cool. But anything you want to close on?
Look, this is the biggest thing. People need to do more of what you're doing. People say, I'm going to go, I want to look at all my options, but then they go, I'm just going to vote for my friend, or I'm going to vote for the person that I've kind of seen the most. I'm telling you right now, go meet every single candidate.
Sure.
If you're not interested in what's happening at the state, your judges or anything, the most important one that you need to visit with and understand is your sheriff, because that is where everything stops. I'm a warrior to my heart. I love being a combat veteran. I wear that with a badge of pride because I served with some really great men and women, and we lost some really great men and women. The last thing I want to see here in our country is for our youth, and especially people like my children, have to fight another war here on our home front.
Sure.
I never wanted to send one of our deputies into a dangerous situation where they could lose their life or have to take a life. If I could, I would totally do it for them, because that's the type of person that I am. I don't want them carrying that burden like I have for a number of years. But I want to make sure that our deputies are properly trained how to handle themselves. I want us to have a more active rapport with our concealed carry class teachers. I want to see more open carry. I want us shopping at our gun stores and understanding weapons. You know, maybe 8 years from now, we could really start to get a shooting program back into our high schools so people understand how to use guns, how they protect them. Knowledge is power.
Sure.
And you hate to see somebody ignorant waving around a weapon. So that's kind of where I'm at with that stuff. I want us to live in this community and be happy, but the sheriff is the most important thing that's going to be up on this primary ballot, and you have to understand who those people are.
Yeah. One last thing. Have you had any support or vice versa with any of the other offices, district attorney, county commissioners, board of education? Is there anybody that you've endorsed or anybody that has endorsed you yet? You're not getting involved in that?
No, I'm not endorsing any of those people because they have all their own things to
right,
do.
Okay.
And I go to the board of education meetings and I see what's taking place there. And you know,
there's a couple seats up there.
I've met with the NAACP because they need to understand that they have a voice in what's happening and what's going on.
Right.
We're going to meet with El Pueblo, which is the Hispanic leadership group. I don't care if people are Republicans, Democrats, or independents. And be honest, if you're being beaten on the side of the road, you don't care if the deputy responding is a Republican, Democrat, or independent. You want them to be trained and professional.
Sure.
So I will meet with anybody that's a citizen in this county because it is their right to understand who is going to be protecting them. Their ideas and their values trickle down all the way to the bottom. And if I hold myself accountable to myself and to the people, that means everybody below me has to do the same. So
absolutely,
it's pretty crazy, you know, but it's just an easy belief whenever you have that. And we just gotten away from it here in the number of years. So
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a great way to close it. Anyway, hey, I appreciate it, JJ.
Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
All right, guys, subscribe, like, and comment in the box below.